Welcome to yet another amazing episode of Pure Minds, Pure Energy, Enlightenment Sessions with Nate and PMC. I'm your host, Nate Zeleznick, founder of the Integrated Ascension Method, or the IAM for short, and one of the only American master trainers of the ancient Indonesian breathwork, meditation, healing, energy building, and extrasensory art of Merpati Putih. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing a truly visionary guest, Isaiah Orland. As the founder of Higher Frequencies, Isaiah blends entrepreneurship, spirituality, and wellness into a transformative force for good. His platform, Higher Frequencies, merges ancient philosophies with modern modalities like music, travel, and holistic health to elevate both the individual and the collective. Isaiah's journey is as profound as his mission. From a metaphysical upbringing to surviving life-altering experiences like his first day at Lehman Brothers in the World Trade Center during 9/11, Isaiah has channeled these challenges into a calling to guide others toward enlightenment. Through his innovative work, he's shaping the future of wellness and wellness tourism and teaching us all how to harmonize mind, body, and spirit. So get ready for a conversation where we're going to dive deep into the realms of consciousness, discipline, and the light within all of us. Welcome, Isaiah. It's wonderful to have you here, brother.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you for the warm introduction, and I'm excited to dive deep with you into the conversation of health, wellness, and discipline.
Well, you are in the right place at the right time for all of those things. So please tell the audience about yourself. How did Higher Frequencies come to be?
Higher Frequencies was birthed out of, I'm a non-practicing attorney. I was in the alcohol space. I was a casino executive. And at the time, I was actually running a champagne company. And I went down to Peru for the first time to sit with the Shipibo tribe and drink Mother Ayahuasca. And in those ceremonies, coming from a metaphysical household, I was given a message that it was time to reconvene with the divine through my faith of Judaism, through other faiths of Hinduism, and to use brands as teaching platforms to teach people about spirituality that at large, a lot of people have lost faith in the divine because they, through religion, they've been sidewinded. There's a lot of charlatans in the spiritual space. And I felt in my messages that I was tasked now with developing that. And so I exited the alcohol space. And at first, Higher Frequencies was a cannabis brand.
Very interesting. Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, this it's a pretty inspiring journey to go from, what a lot of people would consider to be less than spiritual, and say in the alcohol or the altering of consciousness space that way, and then also go into another altering of consciousness space with Mother Aya, and then come out the other side of that to form a company that helps people tap into vibrations and become more aware of them, rather than the other space with alcohol, which honestly dulls them very much. So please share that story of how the platform was really born, and most importantly, where you envision it leading in the future, and especially the future of wellness travel.
Sure, that's great. So the platform was born out of the thought process of the Salvaggio frequencies, the chakras, the map of consciousness by David Hawkins. Originally, the thought process was that we wanted to take the botanicals that align each frequency and chakra and blend those with THC. So for example, frequency 1 was bergamot, clove, cinnamon, orange, lemon, THC. It was your root chakra, and it acted as an anti-anxiety medicine. 396 megahertz. And we did produce those into vapes, and we also produced those in pharmaceutical grade chewies. But the core of the platform originally was actually 4 core tribes. It still is, actually. It's not the mantra, but the tribes of spiritual enlightenment, wellness, travel, and music. Why? All these different modalities of healing can be fit into those tribes. And most importantly, those tribes, they're non-denominational, and they don't generally create conflict with people. Now, there is music out there that's produced on negative low frequencies, but we veer away from that. Unfortunately, we had built the brands, and there's a clothing line as well, but we launched the week of COVID. So life took me in some other directions, and it also took me into the umbilical cord derived stem cell space, which regenerative medicine. So my modalities of healing became ancestral medicine and regenerative medicine. And that's when this whole wellness journey sort of started to take shape of, well, how do we start really, what does this platform look like? Where is it leading? What's the future of wellness travel look like? Because I created partnership marketing in Las Vegas, originally for Las Vegas Sands, which is the Venetian and Palazzo hotels. And the journey started there. So really the birth of the brand was about 2018. And it brought me back to Las Vegas in 2024 to explore where the next phase of this brand is going.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'm going to go back to what you said a little bit ago, because this is actually very pertinent. So you were mentioning Dr. David Hawkins, who, for the people out there that watching this or listening right now, if you have never read the book Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, MD and PhD, it's a really good read. As a matter of fact, it helps for those of us who are meditators to really, for those of us who are meditators who also have this internal desire to understand more of just the how and not just only what, this really puts things into perspective, especially when you're interacting with other people and realizing that, hey, they're where they're at as well. And this calibration of the level of consciousness, it's very interesting to me, Isaiah, that of the 4 avatars that Dr. Hawkins talks about who have ever walked the face of the earth, the people who have attained the highest level of conscious awareness, Jesus Christ, Buddha, Zoroaster, and Krishna, 3 of them are from India. I find that fascinating, that 3 of them were from...
And they actually say, though, that Jesus Christ, the years he was missing, he was studying the Vedas in India.
And I've also read that they have record of him in Russia as well. So,
yes.
I mean, he was all over. And there's an interesting book, it's quite an interesting tale.
Please.
It's called Mutant Message Down Under. And it's a wonderful book about a author, and she goes to Australia, and she goes out into the bush and goes on walkabout with the last true Aboriginal tribe that is not on the Australian census. The government has no idea that they exist. And they went to a cave underneath Uluru or Ayers Rock. And there is, according to her, there are, how would I put this? Paintings of talking about Jesus Christ. And the elders told her, yes, we knew he was on the planet, but he didn't need to come here. It wasn't required for him to come here. He went where he was needed. It was like, wow, that's kind of a mind blower. But in the interconnectedness of the quantum fields and all of consciousness being, in essence, its own self-experiencing itself, all of us, it's not that surprising. And so, when it comes down to higher frequencies, I love your name. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that you were able to even get higherfrequencies.com, because come on, that's an amazing URL. I don't know. But then again, mine, like I am pure.energy, I don't know how that was available either, other than I really step into the fact that we create these and manifest these things with the energy and the thoughts that we have. And so with you really emphasize manifestation, but also the importance of disciplining your senses so that you can purify your mind, purify your body and your soul. So how can someone really begin this practice in their daily life?
So first of all, and obviously morning routine is the most important thing in the world, and we'll get to that in a sec. But one of the most important things, because it sets your mind up for the day. But where this concept of discipline came in for me is, and you hit on it, with higher frequencies, I'm from the tribe of Judaism, right? I study Hinduism. I follow Buddhism and obviously Kriya Yoga, Christ consciousness. It's all the same. It all talks about this divine energy. And you had alluded to the starseed concept when we get into the aspects of the intergalactic divine energy, or what that might look like, right? So there's this divine energy, but we live here in the mundane world, right? And they mention this in Kriya Yoga. They mention divine consciousness in the Torah. And through my, overlapping studies of Judaism and Torah and Kriya Yoga, and even A Course of Miracles, there's this huge commonality about the separation, right? Why? Because we forget we are the divine, right? Because we've lost all discipline of our senses. We're constantly looking externally for emotional, physical, sensational validation, whether that comes in the love of another, whether that comes in a alcohol drink, whether that comes in food, whatever it is, we're constantly turning our senses outward, right? And so a lot of these philosophies, you teach breath work. It's all about breath, right? yoga, even when you take these medicines, it returns you to their breath. Ayahuasca, 5-MeO, DMT. And why is that? Because you are the divine, it is within you. And as Yogananda would say, we have to turn off our sense telephones to remember that, right? So when I was moving through these processes of study and getting to higher frequencies, I came up with this mantra: discipline your senses to purify your mind, body, and your soul through your spiritual practice, your nutritional behavior, your physical fitness routine, and your relationship with self and others. Because those are the pillars. And it's not a, we talk about integration, whether that's in medicine work, whether that's in meditation. That's not a discipline you want to take over all in one sentence, right? It's really, okay, well, today I want to discipline my eyes, right? So I'm not going to look at porn anymore. Or I want to discipline, right? Things that are not beneficial to my spiritual development, right? So when you do the medicines, or I say about a morning routine, I personally, at this moment in time, I wake up at 5 a.m., I put on my tefillin, I chant my Hindu and Buddhist chants, I read Torah, I read scripture. At this moment, it's A Course in Miracles. Last year, it was The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. So I fill my mind with all of this positive energy. And then I do my physical fitness activity right thereafter, whether it's a run, whether it's yoga, but something to get. So I've purified my mind with the right thought processes. I've put my body and breath into motion, right? And I can go face the day and understand that the day is now in the divine's hands, but it's still up to me how I react to anything that shows up in front of me. But I've given myself the best odds not to react improperly through the discipline.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, that's something where in this modern era, we're seeing more and more loss of self-discipline, because we have these things right here that we have it's a whole society. I mean, this is worldwide, such a dopamine fixation of who looked at my post, who liked what I said, did anybody say something bad about me? What is the most amazing cat video that I'm going to watch today? And so, a lot of those things really take us away from our own intrinsic knowledge of ourselves and our source, because when we're so distracted all the time, we don't have an opportunity, we do not as a whole take the opportunity to ask some big important questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Where am I going after this? And honestly, it all comes down to the one big question of what is real. And I love what you're talking about with your morning ritual. And, we're here on this Pyramid Meditation channel where Patriji, the founder of the Pyramid Spiritual Society Movement, or PSSM Global, he was a very big proponent of discipline and meditating every single day and being with your breath and using your breath as the launch platform. And that's also the core of Merpati Putti, the system that I brought to America, and the integrated ascension method. It all starts with our breath. And going back through the millennia, it's always been about breath. That's even what prana means. One of the
yogi words.
Exactly, is breath, but also chi, like qigong. Qigong, one of the interpretations of that is literally breath work. Pneuma in Greece means breath. So we've known for a long time that breath is the key, not only to our health, but also to our ascension on our consciousness. And please correct me if I'm wrong, and everybody out there, chime in the chat if I get this part wrong. But from what I've read, the original yoga had nothing to do with asanas. They were not stretching. It was sitting quietly, sometimes for days, and only focusing on your breath and controlling your physical with your mind and being with your breath the entire time to attain samadhi, or the enlightenment state. And this is the original. This is before Iyengar brought, Hatha yoga to the United States, and everybody got into the fad. And then you've got Ashtanga, which is like CrossFit yoga, and
right,
great for the body.
Vinyasa.
Mm-hmm. But the original yoga, thousands of years ago, from what I've read, and what are your thoughts on that? It was just
so breath is so important. The most important part of the yoga flow is shavasana, when you're still and you're allowing your breath, right? I think, a few things you hit on there. First and foremost, the biggest dopamine hit you could have is understanding that you're a divine consciousness and that love is inside of you and radiating love outward without the want of expectation. To me, that's the biggest dopamine hit, and people don't understand that because there's always a want of reciprocity for something I do, business, love. That no, I want to not be judged, and I want to not respond to people's trauma, and I just want to show up with love, and nothing can change that, right? Breath is the giver of life. This body would not be functioning without breath. So in terms of connecting the divine to this mundane world, it is breath, right? So it is the giver of everything. I mean, look, what do these medicines do? We talk about Stan Grof, who was a Czech-Hungarian doctor who wasn't the founder of LSD, but was one of the studiers of it with his wife. And what they had realized when LSD was made illegal is that through the breath, that was really changing people's state of consciousness when they were under, let's call it, under sedation with LSD, right? So they created holotropic breathwork, which is a rhythmic breathing process against certain frequencies. And that, I can say that I've done 5-MeO DMT and ayahuasca, and holotropic breathwork has taken me as far, if not further. And that's not with anything in your system, right? I can say that when I get into a deep yoga flow, when I'm by myself, not in a class generally, that I fall into what would be an ayahuasca state of consciousness, right? Where I'm getting downloads, I'm seeing orbs shooting around all over me. So it's all about breath, right? The reality is we all have it within us, but because we're so distracted by everything else out there, and because we're so quick to want external feeling versus internal gratification, just for the aspect of being grateful that we get to wake up every day with breath. It's like when you're in one of these sittings and people are like, oh, what are you grateful for? I'm grateful for my breath, man, because like nothing else matters after that, right? Like, and then I'm grateful for my senses and my arms and my legs and all this good stuff, right? But before we even get to food and shelter, it's breath. Yep. And so I would have to agree with you that the original yoga was based on breath, but obviously then, as we got into Patanjali and the Yoga Sutras, it came into full body, and it was really about, okay, so now what does breath do with the body, right? And how does it affect your chakras and your nadis, right? That's the next step, in my opinion, right? Which is, most people are aware of their veins and their arteries carry their blood, but your energy is carried through your nadis and then transported to the chakra system. Most people think chakras, there's 7 chakras. There's actually 114, right? And then there's nadis, which are like your arteries that carry this energy between them. So they get blocked up by your senses and the physical interaction. So through breath, we clean those. So for example, the heart chakra connects the other 6 chakras with 108 nadis. That's why there's 108 yoga poses. There's 108 japa mala beads. There's all these significant things of 108 within these different cultures, focusing around that. There's actually 72,000 nadis that connect the other 114. But breath is the start of it all.
Right. Absolutely. And, I was speaking with a friend just yesterday, actually, and they were asking me, what are you thankful for? Because as of right now, when we're filming this, it's one day after Thanksgiving in the United States. And I always have the same exact answer, just like you were talking about. I go, I'm thankful that I get another one of those, because every single day, about 150,000 people don't wake up, or it's over for them physically. And half of them didn't even know it. So for me, just like with you, my morning routine is I first started off with a big breath and a hell yeah. That's for me. I'm like, yes, I get another one. I get to experience another day. Thank you. And I thank my higher self. I thank the divine. I thank God. That's just whatever it is. So I don't even want to put the divine architect in a box. I just thank all of creation that I get another one of these days. And then I go into my breathwork practices, and then into my meditation, and then into, I guess you'd say, mantra work. And so programming of my day. And for me, by doing that, and I know this is the same thing for the PSSM Global, because a lot of the people in PSSM, they meditate every single morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. 2 straight hours sitting just like this in a pyramid, or with a pyramid on their head, breathing and just following their breath. That's the only part. And the only thing about this meditation is following the breath. Well, for me, I still like to start my day off with a win. And the fact that I'm doing something good for myself, just like you were talking about, reading the scripture, feeding your mind, feeding with the Course in Miracles, feeding your soul, then feeding your body, getting it moving, having that energy. No matter how bad the rest of my day may go, at least I started off with a win. That's why I also make my bed, because no matter how crappy my day might be, at least at the end of it, I get to go and slide into a nice made bed. And that's just something that I like to do. So for you though, let's change gears just a little bit, Isaiah, because we want to talk.
Please.
When you talked about Dr. David Hawkins, one of my favorite books of his works is a book called Letting Go. It is just a life changer. So everybody out there, if you've read Power versus Force, once you do that, then I would recommend 2 other books of his that are absolute game changers, especially for meditators and people on this path toward consciousness ascension. The first one is Letting Go. The other one is called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness. It actually puts and kind of quantifies what the different levels of consciousness are, all the way from the lowest vibratory one with shame, all the way up into the highest level that you would get of the avatars and the saints. So let's talk about letting go. It's a really powerful, but it's a challenging concept in the spiritual practice. So how has the act of letting go shaped your path? And that's a really important thing, because when I mentioned that you were working for Lehman Brothers and you were in the Twin Towers and you survived, but a lot of people didn't. And I'm sure that took a lot of letting go on your part. And so what advice do you give somebody else who's struggling to maybe release control?
For me, that was a very life formative day. It was my first hour of work out of college, and got to the building an hour before, and that occurred. And I worked the year out in New York. There was a lot of distortion of static, let's call it, that year. I think it comes down to surrender, right? But letting go and non-attachment to me are the 2 biggest things that I've had to work on the last few years. Whatever, right? And you hit on it, right? Shame. Most of the limiting beliefs we have are brought on by shame. It has nothing to do with us, which are direct impact of these concepts of letting go and non-attachment, right? So non-attachment, what's that? Non-attachment is the concept that whatever shows up in my life physically, emotionally, possession-wise, I'm okay with it. When it leaves, I'm also okay with it. I'm not attached to the fancy watch like I used to be. I'm not attached to the fancy cars. I'm not attached to the relationships in my life. I love the people in my life, but if something were to occur that transcended that, I'm accepting of that. Letting go is the emotional aspect that causes, so non-attachment can cause harm, because when we hold on to things that should no longer be in our lives, we prevent the good from flowing into our lives, right? And these concepts are not easy. I work on this every single day. Letting go is the concept of, I always equate it to the analogy as, I don't condone fist fighting, but like if you got into a fight as a little kid or something and you got a black eye, you're not going to punch yourself in the face when the black eye heals to remind yourself you got into a fight, right?
Say that again for everybody out there. Listen close. This is very, very important. It just hit me, and I haven't heard that before. That's very
right.
As somebody I was a martial arts instructor for the past 25 years, and I've kicked and punched a lot of people, and I've also been kicked and punched quite a bit. Never out of anger, though. It's always been to better myself and as a challenge to each other. But please restate that. That is beautiful.
You're not going to. So you get a black eye. I'm not going to punch myself in the face again when that black eye heals to remind myself I got a black eye, or to remind myself about the experience, right? However, we constantly emotionally punch ourselves in the face again on a regular, hourly, moment-by-moment basis. We're rerunning scenarios in our head of what we said, what we did, how we reacted. And all we're doing is regurgitating, first of all, something that we're probably not even remembering correctly. We're also applying thought process to someone else. We don't even know what they were thinking in the situation, right? And the end result is for us to dredge up negative emotions that lower our frequency. Rather than saying, okay, like this occurred. I don't know what that person was thinking, but I know how I reacted or what emotions. I don't want that to occur again. So let me let go of that experience. Let me take the lesson, but let me not sit and digest that experience over and over and re-punch myself in the face a gazillion times for something that isn't going to change. It happened. It's done. There's a positive, there's no positive, there's no negative. The lesson was occurred, and I'm going to move forward and try not to repeat whatever came up that I was not proud of or that I was ashamed of. But letting go of that shame, right? Because that shame, like, for me, I know personally, like, I was heavier at a moment in time, because I didn't have not control of my senses. I was in this other business. And I remember coming out of an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was thinking about limiting beliefs. And I said, man, I lost all this weight, but I didn't lose the weight, right? Of like the shame. And like, yeah, carrying fat sucks, like, and it's not healthy, but carrying shame, the emotional side, arguably can do as much physical and mental trauma as carrying the weight itself.
And then when you have both of them going on, you just have a perfect storm for dis-ease in the body and in the mind, in our confidence. Without
the traumas, the trauma in the mind is reactive in the body through inflammation. It brings out recessive illnesses, and then has you running to the doctor for things that are band-aids rather than fixes, because nobody wants to do the work these days, right? We talk about that, right? We talk about this aspect of if you get a download in meditation or an ayahuasca or whatever, however you get downloads, right? Okay, so you got it. You going to integrate now, or are you just going to say, oh, I went and I ran to this medicine ceremony? Why don't people want to do the integration? Because the burn is the blessing. You are the fire, and we are forged in fire.
Yes.
And it's a disassociation of people, places, things, behaviors, past use. And it's uncomfortable, lonely. People don't want to deal with that. So they rather run into something to code it, right? Whether that be running back to medicine ceremonies or taking an SSRI or using a pharmaceutical for weight loss that has horrific side effects, right? I'm not coming from a place of judgment. I just don't think people have the wherewithal, or tools, or are not being presented the proper options. So they really don't know.
Without a doubt. And so to your point there, as far as these pharmaceutical options, I think everybody has heard of Ozempic. If you haven't, you're going to. And so now doctors, from what I've read, doctors are being encouraged to prescribe Ozempic to kids as young as 10 years old. When six? Oh my God. When they're obese. Now, a lot of the people watching this, you may be in India or one of the other countries in the world. If you didn't know this, the United States, our food supply is by far and away the most poisonous in the world. So we have well over 1,000 chemicals that are not allowed in Europe at all. You cannot put them in food there. Why? Because they're endocrine disruptors and they've not been tested on people. They're just allowed to be put in our food. So what that is doing is it is creating the nation that is the greatest nation in the world. It's also the fattest nation in the world. And so we're going to be seeing some changes in our government, hopefully along those lines, as far as making our food healthier and safer again. That said, the Ozempic, where it is from, I believe it's Sweden is where it's from, the doctors there don't want to prescribe it. Instead, what they do is they prescribe proper diet and exercise. So the thing is,
what a shock.
I know that they're sending it all over here. No problem. But I've had several friends go on Ozempic. They lost a lot of weight and then they had stomach paralysis. So,
well, what about stomach paralysis? It inhibits, because it's in your stomach, it inhibits your dopamine and serotonin production. So they're finding depression within and other things. Like, I'm not a doctor, man. I mean, about last year, I read Dr. Casey Means' books, which goes into good energy. And obviously, her and her brother have been all over the news as of lately, which talks about this stuff. But, they talk about how we spend the most on healthcare out of, one of the countries that spends the most in the world, and we're the least healthy. I mean, clearly it's not being done right? It doesn't take a genius to see this, but there's seven companies that control the food source.
Right. And what's interesting, and Casey and Callie Means, they're just revolutionizing people's outlook on these things, along with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and other people as well. Like Dr. Zach Bush is another one. And the thing is that just a very quick aside, is that in the 1980s, when the United States Congress made R.J. Reynolds and the other tobacco companies admit that smoking causes emphysema, it causes lung cancer, well, those tobacco companies then started buying up all the food companies. and start.
And they found ways to make food addictive the same way they made the tobacco addictive.
Absolutely. So if you look at a picture of, say, any beach in the United States back in the 1970s, there were no obese people. And then now you cannot maybe find a couple people that actually look like they're a healthy weight. And it's actually not people's fault that they don't know what's in their food supply. Even health foods, some of them, like the organic fruit, if they've been treated with a peel, well, they could have been grown organically, but a peel is going to screw up your system. So it can be organic and you think you're eating healthy, and actually you're just continuing to poison yourself. So that's an interesting thing. Also, with the PSSM global community, it is based upon plant-based living and eating organic, eating healthy foods. It's nice to see an organization for meditation, but it's not just meditation, it's actual overall healthfulness, and then using the scalar energy of pyramids in order to supercharge the cells. And so I'm really interested, Isaiah, in what's going to happen when people are using higher frequencies, your product, and what we can do with this amazing thing that you're planning. I want to hear more about that as far as the resort and the just life change spa that you're creating in Las Vegas, what we could do to bring in future tech like the pyramid scalar energy to that.
Amazing. Thank you for that. So I started having this thought process when I was working in the regenerative medicine space in Colombia and really getting to experience, healthy eating, healthy living. And I was really thinking, well, what is the next phase of wellness travel? And how do you provide it where people at all socioeconomic levels can partake? And it brought me back to Vegas. And currently in Las Vegas, obviously, Vegas is known for a lot of things, but right now it's the sports and entertainment capital of the world. And there's a spiritual revolution going on here, as well as, if you ride out to Red Rocks, it's a very spiritual place. Oh, yes. The mountains there, it's God's country. And so I started thinking about, I got pulled into a number of conversations about, because when I was thinking about Colombia, a lot of people were saying, well, Isaiah, there's 20 million people in California, there's 2 million in Vegas, they need 48 hours to go get their health together. And obviously people like John Mackey former Whole Foods founder, created Love.Life, which is sort of like Equinox meets Canyon Ranch, which Canyon Ranch is a global spa company and resort company. So I started toying with this idea of, well, what if we created an integrated resort here that the main pillars were music and wellness, and really brought those concepts and top to bottom, sustainability and regeneration, right? So meaning that the top of the resort had the farming going on for the restaurants. Rather than wafting smells into the resort, let's build botanical walls that align your frequencies. Let's look at the color profiles as people are walking through to evoke different chakras and moods. And obviously, let's be very careful about the music and the frequencies that we're playing on given certain things and days. And look, I know people are going to say you're still going to have gaming. Yeah, I'm still going to have gaming. I'm still going to be a casino. But the idea is here, because Las Vegas is the showcase for things to go global, is if we can build this here, then we can use it as a pillar to build these experiences, both from a resort perspective and a residency perspective. And the pillars of music then also extend to proper programming every weekend with the right acts that promote, the right energies. And then lastly, with respects to really taking the focal point on the wellness, obviously breath work, sound, and really having a 50,000 square foot. So where Vegas entities focus on clubs and nightlife and dining, we really want the focus to be the wellness aspect of the resort, meaning this 50,000 square foot facility where people can come do breath work, cold plunges. They can look at aspects of medicine 3.0, and then they can take those modalities home with them and learn from them.
Wow. And I'm just getting this amazing vision of what you're creating. And I hope that everybody else is out there as well. So I just had a hallucination, and I'm just going to throw this out there because it just popped into my mind. How amazing would it be to have a large a large scalar pyramid that is maybe, 15 feet by 15 feet by 15 feet with a meditation cushion and a cold plunge right there, and you could do all of it right inside the pyramid. I think it's Vegas, and I think we can go bigger than that. Actually,
yeah,
they do have the Luxor,
Yeah.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
amazing big pyramid as
Yeah.
well. But that's definitely something. Let's communicate more about that, Isaiah, to bring
Please.
the pyramid technology and the sacred geometry. That is also something that does dial in different frequencies. And as we know, I mean, math is the language of God, as they say. And when you look at like the Platonic solids, or you look at the, say, Metatron's cube, you look at the flower of life, these things have been in use for thousands of years in many different cultures, especially the flower of life. That the frequency, I'm just seeing and feeling into this, that if you have, say, these certain frequencies, which say Dr. Jeff Thompson's, say, scientific sounds, which are the most amazing binaural beats, but he also doesn't have to just do the things with the headphones. He can do them for entire spaces that aligns your nervous system to true homeostasis, not fight or flight and not rest and digest. Those both require a lot of energy, but actually having your nervous system be completely balanced. So in there with that, I mean, wow, there are so many cool things that are going to happen with that, Isaiah. So let's go ahead and let's let people know how, first of all, they can find out more about what you're doing.
Sure. They can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn, Isaiah Orland. I do respond to everything there. From a brand perspective, as you said, it's higherfrequencies.com. It will take you to the YouTube page where we have some podcasts up, some information. And then we put Instagram posts up just about every day at HF Tribes, TRIBES. And we try to make it thematic over the week. With regards to whether it's non-attachment, letting go, surrender, whatever the modality of healing we're leaning into. And higher frequencies will also be, we're just in the process now. We've done all the actual patterns, but I'm working through the fabrics right now. So we're looking at the fabrics twofold to state for the clothing, sustainability and regenerative, so hemp and bamboo, but then also weaving silver and copper into the fabrics so that it protects you from EMF. So we're looking at sourcing right now, and hopefully within the next 6 months. The clothing you're seeing online is merely print material right now. That's just pattern stuff, but we have this whole line coming out that will be both sustainable, regenerative, EMF protection, and the goal is to provide 7 core pieces for men, 7 core pieces for women, all in the chakra colors. So depending how you're feeling, you can wear that and also protect yourself from the EMF environment, and make sure that the fabric was sourced sustainably. Even the dyeing of the fabric, I have a team in India working on this right now. We're going to be using natural dyes such as turmeric and no chemical dyes in the process.
That's amazing. And to that point, I was reading something the other day, and it was saying, actually, no, I heard it, that the air quality in an average house in America is about 4 to 5 times the amount of pollution as outside is, because we have so many artificial fragrances and dyes, think like whatever they might coat your couch with that you sit on and then rub into your skin. Yep. Artificial flavors, not flavors. Well, unless you eat your dryer sheets or your detergent, but those are not natural scents. And so when we are stimulated, if you've ever had a scent come along and it took you back to a time and you had this nostalgic wave, we are very tapped in with our sense of smell, also directly into our brain. And so when you have artificial ones, it may have a connotation for you that, oh, that reminds me of grandma, or that reminds me of this time I did that. But if you're having things come in, like if you inhale cyanide gas, just because you're smelling it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you negatively. Cyanide gas is obviously going to kill you, right? And same thing goes with these artificial dyes and these things that they may smell good, and they make it so that you don't smell the whatever you just stepped in. But what is that doing to your body? The research coming out now is just shocking how much damage is being done. So when you talk about natural dyes, if you have turmeric go in, guess what? You just get an anti-inflammatory benefit that goes in through your skin, right? It'll turn you yellow if the dye is not set. But when we have these other things that are natural and coming from India, many of the essential oils are from India, and many of the spices. And I actually worked for an Indian company called Arya Organic. Everything we do is 100% non-GMO, ethically sourced, and essentially infused with the 528 hertz of love. So you actually are eating the frequency of love. So I'll connect you with them as well, see what we can do, because
Love that.
great addition to your retreat center. So Isaiah, people can reach you at higherfrequencies.com. I just followed you online at Instagram on HF Tribes, and I anticipate that you're going to have a lot of people from this go and check you out, because everything in the universe is frequency, information, vibration, and energy. All of that is synonymous, actually the same thing. So what we can do to raise our own is everything that is available to us that is going to help us be healthier and raise our vibrations is worth having. So everybody, higherfrequencies.com, HF Tribes on Instagram, Isaiah Orland on LinkedIn. This is definitely a company that you're going to want to follow. You're going to want to be a part of this. You're going to want to use these things. You're going to want to share them with your family and the friends and everybody that you love in your life. We have a lot of things that are stacked against us chemically and vibrationally in this world. So when we have things that can really uplift us and make our life better, it's our obligation to share that with our family. It's in our obligation as a being that wants to not just have a long lifespan, but wants to have a long health span here on the planet and learn and have these experiences and do so in a way that actually makes us better people. Yeah, things like what Isaiah is doing, absolutely crucial. So with that said, Isaiah, what's a piece of advice or encouragement you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Stay blessed, stay grateful, stay appreciative, and choose love.
No, I feel that. And I hope everybody out there, as you take a nice deep breath in, you feel all of that too. Once again, Isaiah, it's an honor and pleasure to have you on. Brother, I am so excited for what's coming in the future. And everybody out there, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share this with your friends, your family. Follow PMC Global, follow PMC English, follow Higher Frequencies, follow Integrated Ascension Method. And it's just going to be an amazing future for all of us, much more amazing than if we're ignorant and unaware. So this is all about how can we be better for ourselves, for our family, for our community, for our planet, for our own soul. I'm so blessed to be able to bring amazing guests like Isaiah to you. So stay tuned for the next one, where we're going to have another world disruptor in the field of consciousness and health. All the love and power to you, my friends. Have a great now and a great day on purpose. Hey, my friends, what an incredible journey we've shared today. If you felt even a spark of inspiration or power, don't let it stop here. Take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this with someone who needs it. Seriously, think of just one person who could benefit from what you've experienced today, because together we're building something so much bigger than ourselves. This is more than a show. It's a movement, a space where leaders, visionaries, and seekers like you come to transform, elevate, and align. So don't just follow, become a part of the community. Subscribe to the PMC YouTube channel and follow the I Am Integrated Ascension Method everywhere you can. And let's create something extraordinary together. I'm truly excited to share with you your next step to transformation. So head over to iampure.energy and sign up for my free Perfect Breath class. You'll unlock the secret to mastering your breath, your energy, and ultimately your life. And for those who are ready to go deeper, our masterclass and weekly sessions are waiting to take you to that next level. Make sure that you're here next week, because, as always, I'll be sitting down with another world-changing guest, someone who will blow your mind and give you tools to rise even higher. And don't come alone. Invite your friends, your team, or anyone who's ready to grow. And let's expand this circle of impact one breath at a time. Until then, remember, your potential is limitless, your power is real, and it all begins with a single breath. Together, we're creating the future. I'll see you next time, my friend. Together we rise. See you soon.